What is the worst scent?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just of all time.
Yeah, I mean, like hot, wet garbage, you know?
It's pretty bad stuff,
like summer in a New York City street. You just get that whole, because it's like it fills the air, you know? You can't escape it.
Yeah, it's suffocating.
Yeah.
And then you start to get accustomed to it, and then you think, oh God, is this what my life? Am I garbage?
Yeah.
Have I become the garbage?
Yeah. And then it's like worse when you can see it.
When you can see the scent?
When I can see the garbage and the liquid that's accompanying it. Because then, because that's exactly it. Because now I'm not just seeing it and smelling it. I'm, in my mind, tasting it. And it's the worst.
You just brought, I conjured an image in my mind, and I'd like to bring up the awful dog food factory smell that used to waft through the town that Seth lived in.
That started happening sometimes where I work. Like I'll walk outside the building some nights and it smells overwhelmingly of dog food. And I'm like, there's not a dog food factory here, is there?
That's a problem.
There are also times when I go into the village and it literally smells like sewage, like feces. Just urban areas are bad in terms of smells.
And historically, which we'll get into today.
Okay, good.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperator and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Emily Moyers.
And I'm Kyle Imperator, and we both have our own unique smells that are not garbage related.
We do.
We hope, we assume. I don't like that reaction.
You're telling me. Kyle, do you have a word?
Emily, I have a word.
Is it a stinky word?
It could be.
Well, am I going to smell it through the airwaves?
Yes, we have smell-o-vision, streaming smell-o-vision, smell record-o-vision.
Dang it. Your
word today, Emily, is miasma. M-I-A-S-M-A, miasma. It's a word you may have heard before. You may be familiar with it.
I am familiar with it, but I'm sure there's meanings I don't know. And I'm sure that I know the definition less well than I think I do.
You might have the gist of it.
So,
it can also be pronounced miasma, yes.
Miasma. I've heard miasma also.
I'm going to say miasma in this episode just for consistency's sake.
I feel like miasma rolls off the tongue better for me, but I've heard both.
Sure.
The language of origin, it's got to be Greek or Latin. I'm going to say Greek.
Yep, ancient Greek. You got
ancient Greek. That makes sense. Is it related to Greek mythology, or are we going to go there?
No, we're not going to go there. Well,
I mean, everything from Greece is a little bit related.
Yes. Yeah, not directly, but yes.
Miasma, it comes up a lot in like video games, I feel like, for like when there's an effect cloud coming your way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When something's about to hit you for some acid damage.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. But just to help me like hone in on a definition here, can I get a hint, Kyle?
Your hint, Emily, is Los Angeles.
Okay. I think I might see the angle that you're going for. I hope the angle that you're going for isn't that Los Angeles is smelly.
No.
But maybe that Los Angeles is a sprawl, or that actually, now I'm filled with doubt.
I would say that the tact you were on with video games was pretty spot on.
Yeah. Now you've thrown me with the Los Angeles thing, but I'll stick with my original thought, which is that a miasma is like a cloud, like a haze, like a fog.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much, Emily. I mean, it gets a little more specific than that, but that's good enough.
Close enough.
Close enough. So here, I'm just going to start right off the bat with the definitions that I have for miasma.
Yeah.
So miasma can be a noxious vapor emanating from decaying matter, which pollutes the atmosphere, or the noxious atmosphere itself, or the cloud of such a vapor.
So the vapor itself, or the
atmosphere that it creates,
right?
Or
the cloud,
or a piece of that vapor,
right.
A part of that vapor, a cloud of that vapor, right? In extended use, it can mean any noxious vapor, atmosphere or cloud, particularly ones that are either foul-smelling or murky. So my hint Los Angeles was because it's a smoggy city.
Is it?
Yes, actually, I had to look it up. It is the number one smoggiest city in the United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And then in figurative use, a miasma is a noxious atmosphere or influence, a dangerous, ominous, foreboding, oppressive, or death-like environment, as in one that corrupts or obscures.
Fun.
That is
very florid.
Yeah. We're not going to actually talk that much about the figurative meaning of the word because there is so much to get into with the literal meaning of the word today, Emily.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're going to go on a road trip through time. All right?
All right. Let's get in the car and go.
So miasma comes from the ancient Greek miasma, meaning pollution or defilement, and could alternatively mean a shameful action or crime, which we'll get to in just a little bit. This comes from the verb miaino, meaning to paint or to stain, defile, or pollute, and it may possibly come from either the Proto-Indo-European root smay, meaning to smear, or the root may, meaning to soil.
Sure. So all hovering around making it dirty or altering.
Exactly. Yeah. That second root connection is interesting because it's also the root of our modern day mole, as in the skin blemish, through Proto-Indo-European mel, meaning dark or dirty, and Old English mal, meaning a spot, mark, or blemish.
That's fun too.
So there may be a connection between miasmas and moles.
All
right. To start our journey, Emily, ancient Greece is where nearly all of our journeys begin, right? And where some
comes
of them
up a lot. English has a lot of Greek words.
Yeah. So the concept of miasma in early Greek religion was that of a moral or spiritual pollution, a figurative stain of blood on one's hands, right?
Sure. Darned spot.
Yeah, darned spot. Exactly. So in her book, The Great Transformation, Karen Armstrong describes miasma as a contagious power that had an independent life of its own, and which, until it had been purged by sacrificial death of the wrongdoer, society would be chronically infected by plague and catastrophe.
Wow. This is a very dramatic word.
It's very dramatic. It's literally this essence, like a guilt that followed you around and infected everything and made things bad.
Infected you and everybody around you. It spread like a tar.
Yeah. The fear of miasma in ancient Greek culture is overwhelmingly evident. They talk about it a lot. For example, the plot in Sophocles' tragedy Oedipus Tyrannos, or Oedipus Rex. Oedipus. Yeah.
Oedipus, right.
Yeah, Oedipus Rex, yeah. The plot of that play is set into motion when the oracle at Delphi reveals that the city of Thebes' plagues were caused by the miasmas left by the survival of the murderer of the former king. So he's still alive, and it's causing all these miasmas, creating plagues. And Oedipus then vows to find and bring him to justice. Spoiler alert, it's Oedipus, it's him. He killed the king. He didn't know.
Sometimes you accidentally kill a king.
And he's accidentally your father, too.
Yes.
It's a crazy story.
And then you fall in love with your mom.
Yeah, you got it.
Just hashtag just guy things.
It's guy math, really.
Yes, that's right.
So these miasmic plagues were thought to be a form of punishment from the gods. But Hippocrates, that oath-loving fellow, he instead proposed a connection to environmental factors such as variations in air and water quality.
Oh, so this is where we're getting to miasma that we know it today.
So one text in the Hippocratic corpus called Perifusan, sounds French, it's not. It means on airs or on breaths.
Oh.
It directly connects miasmas, air, and disease, stating, "We can say the source of diseases is when the air is stained by morbific miasmas that enter into the body. When the air is full of miasmas whose properties are hostile to human nature, this is when men are ill."
So, like, physical diseases could stem from sinning or shame.
No.
Oh.
That is how they, in Greek religion, they thought it to be. But Hippocrates and the Hippocratic corpus was saying it's not from shame, it's from the air.
But he's saying the air is full of
miasmas, which is just, who knows?
Bad vibes.
Bad vibes, badness.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Later, the Roman physician Galen connected the cause of these miasmata to air generated from rotting matter, blaming disease on the inhalation of the surrounding air, which is polluted by putrefied odors. The origin of putrefaction is either a mass of cadavers that have not been cremated, or fumes from swamps during the summer.
I mean, I feel like those probably are both things that could get you sick. They can't be good.
They definitely aren't good, and they can get you sick. And we'll talk about why.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know if it's just the scents themselves, but...
Sure. I guess the bacteria being carried by the scent.
That's the gist of it, that no one realized for a really long time.
It smells bad to you because your body's trying to give you a sign that you don't want to be near this thing.
Right. So, Emily, you've hit on the crux of the matter, right?
Yeah.
But for centuries, they did not come to that conclusion.
Sure.
They just thought bad smell, bad air. This is what causes diseases, is this bad air.
It all adds up.
A strong connection to swamps for a long time for some reason.
Because like everything in a swamp is dead and decaying.
It's true. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And ogreish.
Yes. Yeah. And miasmic. They've all got the green cloud floating around. If you're doing a swamp level, you got to avoid them because you take poison damage when you walk through. Everybody knows this.
And it's just Shrek's farts, which we all know.
Yes. Yeah. Regardless of what game you're playing or movie you're in, it is Shrek's farts.
In the swamp, yeah.
Yes.
So from this, Emily, arises the miasma theory of disease.
Oh.
It wasn't called as such until the 1700s when miasma came to English, but the concept itself emerged with the Black Death in the 1300s. And it basically purported that plagues and epidemics were caused by noxious air, that was the cause of disease. For centuries, this miasma, which was often just called bad air, was connected to hot summer air from swampy regions and was believed to be the cause of various diseases. Can you name any that you might think could be related?
To bad air?
Yeah, that people would be like, bad air gave me this disease.
I feel like influenza sounds like the flu part of it linguistically is making me think it has something to do with like air or breathing in or air tubes.
It actually comes from the Italian word for influence.
That is super interesting. Did you have specific ones?
I do. One big example is the disease malaria, which was originally thought to be miasmal and originating from marshes, particularly in Italy and other warm climes of Europe. Prior to the English adoption of the term malaria in the 1700s, the disease was sometimes even called marsh fever. What do you think marsh fever is, Emily?
I was just going to say there's got to be something good there. Marsh fever, I mean, aside from just a desperate desire to be in a marsh fever is what you get if you're at March Madness but really drunk.
Marsh fever. I got marsh fever.
Hey, I'm here. Here's the game. I got marsh fever.
Is LeBron here? Because I got marsh fever. See, I was thinking it was a s'mores disease transmissible by s'mores. Yeah.
Marsh fever. Yeah, absolutely.
But in Old English, the word for malaria was unluft, from the prefix un, meaning bad, and luft, meaning air, which is also whence we get our modern day word lift.
Oh, like a Air.
Like into the air.
Like love it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have, and I want to make assumptions, but you've probably surmised by now that malaria itself comes from the medieval Italian malaria, literally bad air. Yeah. And malaria as a word can also be used as a synonym for miasma to describe poisonous swamp air, the malaria, and can figuratively mean a malign influence. So like the malaria of, the evil advisor.
Interesting. I feel like you can't really use that word in an extended context now because it has a very specific meaning that is so potent.
And like so involving charitable work.
It's like a tax law thing. Any word related to charity you can't use in any other way.
Yeah. You will get sued by UNESCO.
Yes. And the IRS will come after you.
Emily, the disease malaria's connection to Italy is even stronger when considering the miasmatous synonym maremma, maremma, which means malarial exhalations of coastal marshes. And it comes from the previously swampy Maremma region of Tuscany, where malaria was once endemic.
Interesting. So it means like the green cloud coming out of the swamp?
Yep. And it's literally just called that because in Europe, people were like, that place, you get diseases from the swamps down there. Of course, we now know that it's not the swamp's gases themselves, but the mosquito inhabitants that spread the disease malaria. And it's not the mosquitoes themselves that are the malaria disease. They
just carry it.
They carry it in bacterium, right?
Yeah.
But prior to the 19th century, malaria and other miasmous diseases were thought to come from this so-called bad air, particularly air with noxious odors. The smell was a very important part of it. And miasma theory and bad air are especially associated with the 1665 Great Plague of London. Do you remember which plague that was, Emily?
I've heard the word, but I don't remember what the phrase. But I don't remember what.
The Great Plague of London, the Great Prague of London was the last major bubonic plague epidemic in Europe.
Okay, and when was this?
1665.
Wow, that's late for bubonic plague.
Yeah, I mean, it was the last one,
Yeah.
Until we have another.
So. Yes, any day now.
During the plague, to stave off the bad air, the sick were often sealed up in their homes to be fumigated with sweet-smelling herbs in devices called fumigation torches. They were like these little metal canisters that they just
you have
lit
like
up.
Sage and stuff in there.
Yeah, the problem was most professional, quote unquote, fumigators were known for robbing the infirm on their deathbeds, so it was just a bad time.
Yeah, the plague was a bad time, and Kyle's brave for saying that.
Someone's got to put it out there, Speaking of putting it out there, Emily, are you familiar with plague doctors?
Yeah, they had the masks with the big, or stereotypically at least. I have no idea how accurate this was, but I think it comes from real
100%.
Plague doctors would have a big beak mask, and it's so that it would force them to stay far away from their patients. Was the folk origin that I heard.
That you made up for yourself in your mind when you saw one.
I found it on the internet. And thought it was true until you made a face just now.
Not exactly.
I thought it was like an understanding. It came from an understanding that you could catch diseases from someone, even if you're treating them. So the beak was like, it was long because it would say, hey, stay 6 feet away from me, please.
I mean, you're right in that they believed that and that they took precautions against that, but you're wrong about it, the beak being one of those precautions.
Oh, okay.
So plague doctors were often untrained physicians. Sometimes they were like the best of the best and paid a lot of money, but there was a lot of plague. And so many of them were just people who were contracted by the city to roam the streets and make diagnoses. Mm-hmm. And they were dressed in what can only generously be called scrubs, right?
Or a discount Raven costume from the bargain bin at what's that store called? Spooky Time Halloween.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
What the heck is that store called? Spirit Halloween.
Spirit Halloween. Spooky Time Halloween.
Get there.
So Louis XIII's physician Charles Delorme supposedly designed this plague prevention costume, according to an early biographer, Michel de Saint-Martin.
Your French is beautiful.
Thank you. Supposedly, he designed it during a 1619 plague outbreak in Paris. Listen, probably not. The biography of this physician is described as a hagiography. It says a lot of very nice things that are kind of astounding about this guy.
Sure. Hagiography, meaning a biography of a saint, or a biography that depicts someone as saint-like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the biography describes the outfit with the nose 1/2 foot long, shaped like a beak, filled with perfume with only 2 holes, but that can suffice to breath, and to carry along with the air one breathes the impression of the drugs enclosed further along in the beak.
So there was like a cure in the beak? There was like an air sanitization?
Literally, these drugs were just kept in the long beak-like appendix, apparatus. Appendage, thank you. And they had ranged from dried flowers like roses and carnations to herbs like lavender or peppermint, or it could be just like a vinegar-soaked sponge. Anything that was pungent, they thought would neutralize the bad smells and prevent contagion.
Sure. I can understand that logic. They're like, It doesn't smell like plague anymore, therefore, there's no plague.
In the mask. The doctors also carried wooden canes. I'm not sure if this is specifically for plague doctors or was a part of the job of doctor from going back to medieval times, but they carried wooden canes, which is said to be used to keep the patients at a distance and to remove contagious clothing.
Maybe that's what caught in my brain, and I conflated it with the beak.
Sometimes these canes carried aromatic pomander in the tip. Is another way to freshen up the place.
Is that another herb? Pomander?
Pomander is a mixture of a bunch of crap. It's different depending on when you're looking at it and where you're looking at it, but it's nowadays it's like oranges and cloves, which is weird because it's like that's like also a very British Christmas scent.
It is.
I don't know how the association came to be. But the outfit also consisted of a wide-brimmed black leather hat, which was just the hat that doctors wore back then.
Sure.
And that's like how people knew, oh, that guy's a doctor.
Yeah. It's like when you see a guy with a stethoscope around his neck, you're like, that guy's a doctor for sure.
It was the stethoscope of the Middle Ages.
Yeah. We should go back to big wide-brimmed hat instead. Honestly, that's more fun.
Absolutely. They also had round insect-like spectacles or goggles to prevent it getting in through the eyes. Although, and it was made of crystal, but it made it really hard to see for them.
Just what you want from your doctor is for her not to be able to see you.
Exactly. And they wore long black robes that were sealed with scented wax in order to keep the pestilential air from seeping in. Sure. And although miasma theory got wrong the cause for the bubonic plague's spread, the outfits unintentionally helped prevent the actual cause, which was flea bites. And it's assumed, purported, theorized that the materials that were kept in the mask may have had antiseptic properties. Mm-hmm. So we think of the plague doctor's outfit, their costume, as the earliest iteration of a hazmat suit.
Sure. Yeah. It's PPE.
It must have worked for Delorme, at least, because that guy lived to the age of 92.
In the 1600s?
92 in the 1600s.
That's like 408 today.
And he was a doctor for multiple plagues.
Yeah. Wow. Good for him. Then that thing worked. We should definitely go back to the plague doctor outfit now.
Well, Emily, the vision of the plague doctor for them back then was oftentimes the last thing you saw before you died. And so the outfit was just seen as the personification of death.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
It's not a great thing.
And it just looked creepy because they were all in black and had big crow beaks.
And tiny eyes and you couldn't see them.
Yeah,
and,
goggles. Yeah. And like a wooden cane or, in my brain, a scythe.
A scythe. Yeah. Reapers. So, Emily, it wasn't until a 19th century cholera epidemic in London and an event called the Great Stink that thoughts on miasma finally began to change.
I'm very excited to hear about the Great Stink, Kyle.
Get ready for the Great Stink, Emily. So the epidemic was originally blamed on miasmatical sewer gas, the smell of hot human waste emanating from the River Thames, and the stench led to political cartoons with an anthropomorphized Father Thames, a filthy, waste-covered, bearded man dredging sewage from the riverbed. The poem, Emily, Dirty Father Thames, elaborates on this character. Filthy river, foul from London to the Nore. What art thou but one vast gutter, one tremendous common shore? All beside thy sludgy waters, all beside thy reeking ooze, Christian folks inhale Mephitis, which thy bubbly bosom brews.
Wow. And that's another good word in there, Mephitis. It's like a noxious cloud also.
Yeah, just a stench.
Yeah.
Poisonous stench, yeah. Other political cartoons, Emily, depicted the Thames water as monster soup, filled with horrifying clowns, creatures in suits, and microscopic coffin bearers.
Monster soup is my favorite. It's my go-to order at Panera. It's a seasonal one. You can only get it in October, but it's good. And
you get it in a bread bowl?
Yes, but the bread bowl is green when it gets to you.
Yeah. See, for me, monster soup is like if Maurice Sendak wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. Emily, eventually the physician Jon Snow, not Game of Thrones.
True King of the North.
Yeah. Eventually Jon Snow said, hey, wait a minute. I think it's actually transmitted through drinking the water.
Yeah, that maybe.
John. Using a dot map, Snow showed that deaths were clustered around pumps from where drinking water was retrieved, and his study is seen as the founding event of the science of epidemiology, or the study and analysis of patterns of disease spread.
Wow. We have Kit Harington to thank.
Kit Harington. Thank you, Kit. Of course, he was basically ignored. But
as most right people are.
But his position contributed to the mounting evidence for the biggest competitor to the miasmatic theory of disease, besides something called contagion theory, germ theory, is the right one, the true one.
We talked about germ theory in...
It was episode 91 Fomite, for our talk about germ theory, the germs of germ theory.
Mm-hmm.
Germ theory correctly states that diseases are caused by microorganisms and not bad air.
Or bad humors.
Yeah. Emily, today miasma can be used to talk about any sort of cloud of odor or smoke, like in William Least Heatmoon's book Blue Highways, where a woman sat staring numbly through the miasma of her cigarette into the March grayness. Or it can refer to a generally gloomy or oppressive atmosphere, as in one New Yorker article from 2019 that states a miasma of guilt and misunderstanding surrounds discussions of gentrification.
It sure does.
Or it can be a toxic influence, as in Michael Hiltzick's book Big Science, where he writes that the nationwide miasma of anti-communism was not dispelled so easily.
Yeah, these are all good.
But be it macabre mists or muggy marshes or morbific matter, miasmas have surely had an influence on our culture and lexicon and health.
Beautiful, beautiful ending line, Kyle. Good episode. It's a word that I knew, but I knew nothing about. So this was fantastic.
I love this. I love miasma. I'm a big miasma stan. Just want to get that out
Kyle's
there.
Kyle's got miasma fever.
I've got miasma. I've got asthma. But, Emily, I am going to ask you, can you use miasma in a sentence?
I totally can.
You can.
I just got to think of a good one. Oftentimes, between my job and my podcast job and my school job, I find myself in a miasma of tasks that need to be organized and completed that will not allow me to focus on any one thing.
Truly a noxious atmosphere, Emily.
A haze.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. Emily, let's cap things off with a little game.
Let's play a game.
Got a short one for you today. It's called Plague It Safe. Emily, there's been a new outbreak, and we need you to act as plague doctor.
Yeah, okay? I love when the minigame comes with a lore drop.
I'm trying. It's like, it makes me feel better about the bad games that I come up with. Now, these germs do release miasmata as some of the world's deadliest chemicals. That's the miasmata that they release, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to describe to you the smell of a deadly poison, and you're going to have to guess that poison.
Okay.
You've got a bank.
I've watched enough murder mysteries to know a couple.
Emily, your bank of words is carbon monoxide, cyanide, hydrogen sulfide, phosgene, and ricin.
Okay. I can tell you right now which two I'm going to get.
So, your first scent is bitter almonds or marzipan.
So that one I know from all the murder mysteries.
Wow.
It is cyanide.
Emily, you got it right. Good job.
Yep. All the sleuths know that one. They'll get near the corpse and be like, "Wait, officer, I smell bitter almonds. This wasn't an accidental death. It was murder."
I can hear Poirot saying it, but specifically saying smells of marzipan. You know?
The smell of the bitter almonds.
The bitter almonds, yeah. Yeah, so cyanide gas is used for exterminating pests. Oh. Smells like almonds. You don't want to breathe it. It'll kill you. Emily, your next scent smells, like freshly cut hay or grass. Or, when it's really pungent, it smells like rotten banana peels.
This one I have no idea, but guessing purely on the vibes that I'm getting from the words, phosgene.
Emily, you got it right.
Don't ask me to explain the logic that was happening in my brain.
You're going to live to 92. Phosgene gas was just a chemical weapon used in World War I.
Oh.
Yeah,
was that a mustard gas?
No, it's a different gas. Mustard gas smells like mustard.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. It was. They tried to find other uses for it, but it was so deadly, just kills.
Yeah. Yep.
Your last scent, Emily, smells like. It smells like rotten eggs.
That's hydrogen sulfide. I know that because sulfur. Yeah. I remember in my 7th grade chemistry class, where she's like, "All right, I got a little bit of sulfur here," and yeah, it was stinky like eggs.
You got it, Emily. Hydrogen sulfide. Sulfur smells like eggs. It's also known as sewer gas, stink damp, or manure gas. And it's produced by the bacterial decomposition of dead plants and animals and occurs naturally in many places, but also swamps.
There you go. So swamps also smell like rotten eggs.
Swamps smell like rotten eggs. It's Shrek gas.
It's Shrek fart gas.
Yeah. That's it, Emily. Great job. 3 out of 3. I'm proud of you. You've got scents down. You know the worst scents in America.
Nice. Does ricin have a scent? Because I know carbon monoxide smells like nothing.
Nope. The other two were odorless gases. Yeah. But still very deadly.
Yes. That's why it's important to have a carbon monoxide detector in your house. Great game, Kyle. Great episode. Loved it. Super fun episode about death and disease.
Happy Spooky Month, everyone.
Happy Spooky Month. Everybody go dress up as a plague doctor. And remember, you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips. And you can find Butter No Parsnips on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you liked today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or a review wherever you heard us.
And if you really liked today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more gets you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Kyle Imperator.
And I've been Emily Moyers, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Emily Moyers, and myself, Kyle Imperator. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.